5 Women, 5 Stories is a collection of chilling tales based on real events. Join a journey into terror as 5 brave women share their eerie encounters from ghostly apparitions to unexplained phenomena. Prepare to be scared, thrilled, and believe in the truth behind these horrifying experiences. I purchased a house in a quiet suburban neighborhood built on a cul-de-sac. Most homes in the area date back to the 1960s to 1970s. My split-level home had a brick exterior and blue siding with a beautiful front porch. The front yard featured 3 trees, including a large oak and 2 old pine trees. Upon entering the home, a living room was to the right, with an entryway and stairs leading to 3 bedrooms upstairs. The kitchen was further down the hall, with stairs leading to the basement, where a laundry room and additional bedroom were located. Initially, I lived in the home with my father, who had dementia, and my 2 children. We occupied the upstairs bedrooms. However, strange occurrences began after I brought my father's clock collection into the home, with most of the clocks stored in the basement. Some dated back to 1910. The strange events escalated after I got married and moved my husband into the home. One night, he woke up screaming with 3 claw marks across his chest. I treated his wounds and bandaged him up. The house remained quiet for about 3 weeks until I heard a loud bang upstairs while home alone. I found my daughter's VCR tape deck holder in the hallway, which I returned to her room. However, it flew into the kitchen on its own, and I eventually threw it outside. Subsequent events included banging on kitchen cabinets, drawers opening and closing, and TV volume and channels changing on their own. My phone levitated and all my contacts were erased. I also heard picture frames being rearranged in the living room. A paranormal research company investigated and reported that a family attached to one of the clocks was present in the home. The grandfather was negative, while the mother was protective of my children. Most energy emanated from the basement, where the clocks were stored. After selling the clock, I continued to experience strange occurrences, including a burning smell in the kitchen. As my father's health declined, I sold the home and moved to a 1-story house with no further activity. The original home has been resold several times, but no one has stayed longer than a year, until the current owners turned it into a rental property in 2021. A few years ago, I traveled to Australia and ended up working on a cattle ranch that had been in the family for over 100 years. There was also a derelict house on a different part of the ranch, about a 20-minute drive away. One day, a girl, a guy, and I drove to the derelict house to explore it. When we arrived, the others went straight in, but I couldn't bring myself to enter. I had a terrible feeling that something bad was in that house, so I stayed back in the car. After that visit, strange things started happening. The guy using a chainsaw one day almost lost his hand when it buckled. His personality changed drastically, and he became angry and narcissistic towards everyone. I also started having constant feelings of dread and awful nightmares. It was a bizarre experience, and my friend and I still talk about how messed up things went. One day, while looking over the lake with my friend, we saw something on the other side of the trees that didn't look human. It terrified us, and I refused to return to the lake after that. Not long after, I decided to leave. During my time there, I found a gun on a bed despite the gun cabinet always being locked and guns never being left out. No one else had been upstairs, and no one admitted to touching the cabinet. Moreover, our radios would pick up different frequencies from truck drivers, but at times a girl's voice would come through repeatedly saying, "Hello, can you come and get me? Can you hear me?" It happened on numerous occasions, and we never found out who she was. I made the mistake of renting the same haunted house twice when I was a teenager. The first time, I lived with 2 girlfriends who warned me that the house, particularly the scary barn in the back, was troublesome. We went away for a 3-day weekend, and when we returned, we found that the door window on the back porch was broken, with glass scattered all over the patio. We called the police, and the officer who arrived took one look and said, "Someone broke out, not in. That's why the glass is outside on the patio." We were freaked out, and the police were too. We moved out soon after. A couple of years later, I forgot about the previous experience and rented the same house again with a different friend. The first strange occurrence was when I astral projected out of my body. I woke up, went out of my room, and tried to pick up a banana on the table, but couldn't. I thought I was too tired, so I walked back through my door and lay down to go back to sleep. It was then that I realized I wasn't awake when I tried to get the banana. Friends would occasionally crash at our place, and one night I was lying in bed almost asleep when something whispered my name. I opened my eyes just in time to see something flit by outside my window. I yelled out for my friend sleeping on the couch to come quickly. He came into my room, grumpy because he thought I was messing around. We lay there in the dark waiting, and about 19 minutes later the whole thing happened again. My friend was so angry that he tore out of the house, chasing the prankster to beat him up, but there was no one there. After that, I slept on the living room floor until we could move out again. About 15 years ago, I was locking up the gate to my horse's field around 9 p.m. Although it was getting dark, I could still see fairly well. As I turned around after locking the gate, I noticed a woman kneeling by a ditch, her face in her hands, wearing a long, dark gray or black dress. I could hear her sobbing. I called out to ask if she needed help, but she didn't respond. I approached her, touched her shoulder, which felt solid and ice cold despite the warm evening, and she slowly turned to face me. To my horror, she had no eyes. I was frozen in terror as I watched her slowly disappear into a fine mist right before my eyes. I raced home, and to this day I avoid looking at that spot, fearing I might see her again. Interestingly, my horses always seem to get spooked near that spot, standing and turning their heads as if they're watching someone or something pacing back and forth, even though I don't see anything. About 6 years after the encounter, I stumbled upon an old newspaper article that revealed a tragic story from the 1860s. A young boy had drowned in the stream that used to run through the ditch, and his grief-stricken mother took her own life at the same spot. Her body was found days later, partially hidden in reeds with her eyes missing. I did not know this story before seeing the woman, so it couldn't have been my imagination. Although she terrified me, I now feel sympathy for her. I haven't seen her since, and I hope she's finally found peace with her son. The night my grandmother passed away in 2010, I was sleeping in the room adjacent to hers. My aunt and mother were in the kitchen monitoring her breathing via a baby monitor, as she valued her independence and didn't want to be constantly checked on. Although her death was anticipated, we thought she had at least a week or two left. Despite being unable to get out of bed without assistance, I woke up to find her sitting at the end of my bed, her hand on my leg. She told me to be good, then walked out of the room. I fell back asleep. My mother then entered my room to inform me that Nan had passed away about 20 minutes earlier. I asked how she had managed to come into my room, and my mother explained that they knew she hadn't, as they had been listening to her breathing on the baby monitor. They only realized she had died when her breathing suddenly stopped, prompting them to rush into her room and find her. They came to wake me up after calling the doctor. The moment she took her last breath coincided exactly with the moment I saw her walk through the door, as if she were returning to bed.
We value your feedback, so don't hesitate to share your thoughts in the comments section below. If you enjoyed these haunting tales, remember to like, share, and subscribe to Creepy Corner. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss our next spine-chilling stories. Stay tuned for more.